Do subscribe, like, and share.
Prophet Yusuf escaped from the well. The following words informs us how Prophet Yusuf escaped from the well. Some travelers came that way and then dispatched their water drawer, who let his bucket down. He said, "Good news for me. I found a ball." They then hid him away among their goods. Allah knew very well what they were doing. Surah Yusuf 19. The moment Prophet Yusuf was thrown into the well, and the moment he was rescued from it, were both incidents set out in his destiny. Nothing happens outside one's predetermined destiny. For that reason, the caravan that would come past after Yusuf had been thrown into the well, its destination and the kind of people in it had all been set out by the predetermination of Allah before the Prophet was even born. Believers who grasp this important truth are always submissive to the will of Allah because of it. As can be seen from this verse, the group that found Prophet Yusuf in the well and rescued thought that they would be able to sell him, and regarded him as a piece of merchandise. That was because the system of slavery was then still prevalent in Egypt and the surrounding area. People actively engaged in the trade, buying and selling children in particular. That was why the people who found him had such cause to celebrate at the prospect of making commercial gain out of him. However, the continuation of the worst reveals that they underestimated his value and sold him on cheaply. They sold him for a pittance, a few small coins, considering him to be of little worth. Surah Yusuf 20. There is actually great wisdom in the state of affairs. If they had placed a high value on him, if they had realized that he was a chosen figure, a prophet, they would have wanted to harm him. Similarly, other unbelievers who came to hear of it would also wish to do him wrong. The fact that they underestimated him and sold him into slavery in expectation of a material profit actually worked out in his favor. The wisdom behind this episode in the life of Prophet Yusuf lies in the way it indicates the great benefit and protection for the believers that is hidden in the general tendency of unbelievers to underestimate them, regarding them as insignificant and inconsequential. There is another noteworthy point here. As we know, Prophet Yusuf was known for his extraordinary beauty. Yet, as we have seen, this beauty had not yet become apparent at the time he fell into the slave traders' hands. They failed to see what a valuable individual he was, describing him merely as a child. That means that Allah in His wisdom had concealed his beauty at that time, which was yet another manifestation of His help and protection. According to the Quran, Prophet Yusuf was found by the slave traders and sold to an Egyptian. This is related as follows. The Egyptian who had bought him told his wife, "Look after him with honor and respect. It's possible he will be of use to us, or perhaps we might adopt him as a son." And thus we established Yusuf in the land to teach him the true meaning of events. Allah is in control of His affair. However, most of mankind do not know Surah Yusuf 21. By means of this Egyptian who bought him, Allah ensured that Prophet Yusuf was protected, well cared for, allowed to grow up settled in Egypt. His purchaser entrusted him to his wife in a very kind and compassionate manner, advising her to take good care of him. Actually, they thought that Yusuf could be very useful to them, and even thought of adopting him. This is still further evidence of Allah's help, support, and love and compassion for the Prophet. Allah rescued him from the perils of the well, settled him in a favorable place, and made Egypt his home. All of these things were blessings from Allah. Furthermore, Allah gave Prophet Yusuf knowledge, teaching him to interpret people's words. There is no doubt that this is a great ability and at the same time a blessing, which Allah confers on search of His servants, as He chooses the worst concerned states. He gives wisdom to whoever he wills, and he who has been given wisdom has been given great good. Surat al-Baqarah 6:9. He is slandered when he reaches maturity. Thus it was that Prophet Yusuf began to live with the Egyptian Aziz, as well as teaching him to interpret people's words. Allah also gave him judgment and knowledge. When he reached maturity, the judgment referred to in the relevant word is the ability to reach a just decision compatible with the scriptures of Allah. Knowledge, on the other hand, may be the knowledge of learning, or else perhaps the ability to perceive the inner aspects of things. Allah knows best, of course. These are all indications that Allah had singled him out for his upright behavior and blessed him. This truth is described in the Quran as follows. And then when he became a full-grown man, we give him knowledge and right judgment too. That is how we reward all doers of good. Surah Yusuf 22. However, when Prophet Yusuf reached majority, the lady of the house he lived, Aziz's wife, wanted to seduce him. A suitable environment was prepared. To that end, all the doors were tightly locked in. An improper suggestion made to the Prophet. His response in these circumstances is a model of virtuous conduct for all believers to aspire to. First and foremost, although the woman desired him, he sought refuge in Allah, rather than commit such an ugly sin, which would have been a violation of Allah's sanctions. He then behaved in a loyal and civilized manner, reminding the woman of Aziz and saying that he had looked after him and treated him well. In this way he made it absolutely clear that he could commit no such act of disloyalty to Aziz. Immediately after that he stated that the wrongdoers could not hope for salvation and that this would be cruel behavior. The Quran released the episode as follows. The woman whose house it was wanted to seduce him. She barred the doors and said, "Come over here," he said. "Allah is my refuge. He is my Lord and has been good to me with where I live. Those who do wrong will surely not succeed." She wanted him and he would have wanted her, had he not seen the clear proof of his Lord. That happened so we might award from him all evil and lust. He was our chosen servant. Surah Yusuf 23-24. As is clear from the above verses, Prophet Yusuf knew that adultery was a sin in the sight of Allah. He therefore avoided transgressing and tried to escape from the woman. The way that Allah indicates that he would have wanted her contains a very important secret regarding this particular test. It is possible for a believer's lower self to turn in the direction of something that is sinful according to his religion. The important thing is for the believer to refuse to submit to that desire and to demonstrate the determination not to go beyond the limits. Allah said, there would have been no test if he had had no physical desires. The subsequent events are related in the following verse. As they raced to the door, she tore his shirt at the back. They met her husband by the door. She said, "How should a man, whose intention was to harm your family, be punished for what he did, except with prison or painful punishment?" Surah Yusuf 25. Following this incident, the woman began slandering Prophet Yusuf as, despite his virtuous behavior and avoidance of adultery, even though he was completely innocent, she told her husband the Wazir that Yusuf had approached her with evil intentions, demanding that he either be thrown into prison or else suffer torture. This is a clear indication that the woman had no fear of Allah and possessed a cruel streak. The improper suggestion she made to Yusuf was, in any case, the most important indication of her corrupt nature. The way that she made these false allegations and wanted him to be punished, despite his innocence, was simply an expression of that fundamental corruptness. Prophet Yusuf responded in this way. He said, "It was she who tried to seduce me." A witness from her people then declared, "If his shirt is drawn in front, She speaks the truth, and he has clearly told a shameless lie. If his shirt is drawn at the back, then she has lied, and he has clearly told the simple truth. Surah Yusuf 26-27 in this situation. The fact that the woman had turned the back of Prophet Yusuf showed his evidence that he had fled in the direction of the door, with the woman chasing after him. According to the verses, the Prophet's innocence had been proven. He saw the shirt drawn at the back and said, "The source of this is women's deviousness. Without a doubt your girl is very great. You so ignore all this. And you, my wife, should ask forgiveness for your evil act. There is no doubt that you are in the wrong." Surah Yusuf 28-29. Aziz realized that Prophet Yusuf was innocent and said that this was all a trick of his wives. His words as related in the above verses are evidence that Aziz had more conscience than his wife. Yet the incident did not end there. The subsequent developments are related in the Quran. Some city women said, "The governor's wife solicited her sleeve. He's fired her heart with love. We see that she's the one to blame." Surah Yusuf 30. As we see, the incident spread among the women of the city. The way that attention is drawn to the women in the worst may be intended to show how ignorant people's lack of moral worth goes hand in hand with either gossiping or mischief-making nature. Allah knows best. Of course, the women in the city then began to speak against the vizir's wife, condemning her actions. They realized that the guilty party was not Prophet Yusuf but Aziz's wife, who was made uneasy by the criticism of her. In fact, people who ignore the good, show off Allah and aim to please other people instead, are the most fearful of being belittled in the public by spoiling their image. One of the things these people, who have no fear of Allah, are actually most afraid of is that the things they do in secret are discovered by others. That was the position Aziz's wife found herself in. When Aziz's wife realized that she had become the target of gossiping women, she prepared a trap for them. The aim here was to show that she was not entirely to be blamed for succumbing to her amour or just with respect to Prophet Yusuf, because he was such an extraordinarily beautiful man. Indeed, the other women were amazed at Prophet Yusuf's beauty. But when she heard of their malicious dog, she sent for them and made a sumptuous meal, and then she gave a knife to each of them. She said to Yusuf, "Go out to them." When they saw him, they were amazed by him and cut their hands. They said, "Allah, preserve us, this is no man. What can this be but a noble angel?" Here Surah Yusuf 31. As the above was shows the beauty of Prophet Yusuf, reminded the women of Allah, and had no choice but to call upon him spontaneously in the face of such loveliness. They regarded his beauty as something superhuman, and even claimed that he was an angel. If we recall, Allah had hidden Prophet Yusuf's striking beauty when he was a child, thus protecting him as time passed, however, and Prophet Yusuf has reached maturity, that beauty began to attract considerable attention. There is very definitely great wisdom concealed within each one of these details. The continuation of the story reveals what took place next. She said, "You see, it's him you blamed me for. I tried seducing him, but he refused. If he does not do what I order him, he will be put in prison and brought law." Surah Yusuf 32. As we can see, the woman openly confessed her guilt and admitted that Prophet Yusuf had wanted to protect his chastity. Yet she also repeated that same ugly proposition in front of a large group of people, commanding Prophet Yusuf to go along with her, and threatened him with prison and public humiliation if he refused to comply. It can be seen from this just how cruel and bereft of moral integrity this woman was. This is, of course, the most astonishing situation. Maybe it was the woman's confidence in her position in Egypt, in her wealth, and the fact that Prophet Yusuf was her slave, that impelled her to commit the sin. This was a most depraved suggestion, and Aziz's wife had no compunction about repeating it in front of everyone present. This is proof both of her own lack of religious values and of the other women's looseness in religious matters. In the same way that no devout woman could ever embark on such a transgression, so no devout woman could ever stand by and watch while something of that sort happened. Moreover, the women described in the story remained silent in the face of the threats uttered by the weasel's wife and turned a blind eye to her ugly actions. The Quran also relates Hafiz raised no objection to Prophet Yusuf being thrown into the dungeon, even though he had seen all the evidence. In the same way, his wife turned a blind eye to Yusuf, years of imprisonment. As can be seen from this example, non-believers always support people of a similar frame of mind, and are able to sit back and watch and remain silent while evil plans are hatched and set in motion. We see how the city women in the story preferred to remain silent, thus making them accomplices in the plot. They did not even support Prophet Yusuf when Aziz's wife confessed, but sat back and watched as a virtuous man was thrown into jail. Another noteworthy element here is Prophet Yusuf's sincerity. He immediately sought refuge in Allah, and sincerely opened his heart to Him and begged for help. Great sincerity and purity of heart are exemplified by his behavior. He said, "My Lord, the prison is preferable to me than what they call on me to do. Unless you turn their girl away from me, it may well be that I will fall for them, and so become a man of ignorance." His Lord replied to him and turned away from the female guy in deviousness. He is the one who hears, the one who knows. Surah Yusuf 33-34. The most striking aspect of this part of the story is the women's resort to setting traps. One of the lessons to be drawn from this episode is that believers need to be on their guard against ignorant women in such matters, since they are mindful of what is lawful and unlawful and are unaware of the bounds Allah set. For various reasons they are liable to transgress in order to satisfy their pride, sometimes from submission to their physical desires, and sometimes from an intention to please believers in a difficult position. Such women can sometimes leave snails for male believers, but we must make it clear, however, that we are not referring to all women here, only ignorant ones with no fear of Allah.